Coming up on 5 Minute News. Millions of hungry Americans turn to food banks for the first time. Feds passed up chance to lock in more Pfizer vaccine doses. And Trump administration seeks to allow polar bear disturbance for oil in Alaska refuge. It's Tuesday, December 8. I'm Anthony Davis. Hunger is a harsh reality in the richest country in the world. Even during times of prosperity, schools hand out millions of hot meals a day to children, and desperate elderly Americans are sometimes forced to choose between medicine and food. Now, in the pandemic of 2020, with illness, job loss and business closures, millions more Americans are worried about empty refrigerators and barren cupboards. Food banks are doling out meals at a rapid pace, and an Associated Press data analysis found a sharp rise in the amount of food distributed compared with last year. Meanwhile, some people are skipping meals so their children can eat, and others are depending on cheap food that lacks nutrition. Those fighting hunger say they've never seen anything like this in America, even during the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009. And still, the Trump administration denies and dismisses poverty as people not doing enough to help themselves. From Anaheim, California to San Antonio, Texas to Toledo, Ohio, and Orlando, Florida, thousands of vehicles carrying hungry people queued up for miles across the horizon. Feeding America, the nation's largest anti-hunger organization, scrambled to keep up as states locked down and schools, many providing free breakfasts and lunches, closed. In late March, 20% of the organization's 200 food banks were in danger of running out of food. The problem with supply subsided, but demand has not. Feeding America has never handed out so much food so fast, 4.2 billion meals from March through October. The organization has seen a 60% average increase in food bank users during the pandemic. About 4 in 10 are first-timers. For communities of color, the pandemic has been a compound disaster, with blacks and Latinos reeling from disproportionately high rates of deaths, infections, and joblessness. The Trump administration opted last summer not to lock in a chance to buy millions of additional doses of one of the leading coronavirus vaccine contenders, a decision that could delay the delivery of a second batch of doses until manufacturer Pfizer fulfills other international contracts. The revelation, confirmed yesterday by people familiar with the matter, came a day before Donald Trump aimed to take credit for the speedy development of forthcoming coronavirus vaccines at a White House summit later today. Pfizer's vaccine is expected to be approved by a panel of Food and Drug Administration scientists as soon as this week, with delivery of 100 million doses, enough for 50 million Americans expected in coming months. Under its contract with Pfizer, the Trump administration committed to buy an initial 100 million doses, with an option to purchase as many as 5 times more. This summer, the White House opted not to lock in an additional 100 million doses for delivery in the second quarter of 2021. Days ahead of the vaccine's expected approval, the administration is reversing course, but it's not clear if Pfizer, which has since made commitments to other countries, will be able to meet the latest request on the same timeline. The Pfizer vaccine is one of 2 on track for emergency FDA authorization this month, the other coming from drug maker Moderna. The Trump administration insisted late on Monday that between those 2 vaccines and others in the pipeline, the US will be able to accommodate any American who wants to be vaccinated by the end of the second quarter next year. Seeking to tamp down public skepticism over the vaccine and secure a key component of Trump's legacy, today's summit will highlight the administration's plans to distribute and administer the vaccine. Some expressed concerns about the event contributing to the politicization of the vaccine development process and potentially further inhibiting public confidence in the drugs to prioritize Donald Trump falsely taking the credit. Joe Biden said on Friday that Trump appears not to have a detailed plan that we've seen for how to get the vaccines out of containers, into syringes, and then into people's arms. The Trump administration on Monday proposed allowing companies searching for oil and gas deposits in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to disrupt polar bears living there. The so-called Incidental Harassment Authorization proposed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service would pave the way for seismic surveys in the refuge's coastal plain, a key part of Donald Trump's last-minute push for more oil development in the region. The Fish and Wildlife Service said that no polar bears are expected to be injured or killed during seismic operations, some of which are scheduled to take place next month, and expects disturbances to impact only a few bears. But several veteran Arctic scientists and environmentalists in Alaska have warned against seismic operations, which can involve blasting to produce sonic images of underground formations. They argue the testing will upset wildlife and that the heavy machinery actively involved in the work will damage tundra and speed up the thaw of permafrost. The Trump administration seems determined to push polar bears further down the path to extinction before leaving office, said Kristen Monsell, legal director of the Center for Biological Diversity's Oceans Program. Polar bears are considered a threatened species because of the rapid warming of the Arctic. Drilling has been banned in ANWR for decades before Republican-led legislation signed by Trump in 2017 removed that ban. Trump has sought to maximize domestic oil, gas and coal production and has downplayed environmental and climate threats from the drilling and mining industries. President-elect Joe Biden opposes the drilling and is expected to try to reverse Trump's efforts next year. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health and climate, delivering independent, unbiased and essential world news daily.